Hello everyone, Pineaaronapple here with the new Resident Evil movie. Welcome to Raccoon City. I've been wanting a more game-accurate adaptation of the Resi franchise for a while now. Well, if you have to mention when, I'd say ever since I saw the travesty of a film series that came beforehand. I always believed that the way the games are presented could easily make a great game-accurate film series, especially with how prevalent cinematic universes are in the business today. Imagine my surprise when I saw the trailer that this film not only had a fantastic cast, but was an amalgamation of Game 1 and 2, which to me was a very interesting idea, since characters from both games know each other even if none featured in both. Although, as we will learn, with a running time of 1 hour and 47 minutes, that means that some things will be cut and switched. So, now first, why don't we get into the characters? We'll talk about the characters in no particular order, and depending on how I introduce the actor, you'll get to know exactly what sort of shows I know them from. First is Claire Redfield, played by Kaya Scodelario, who I don't know and can't pronounce the name of. So you might know her from... hold on. Did anyone ever watch the Maze Runner movie? I saw the first 3 minutes and the end credits together once. So Claire is the estranged brother of Chris Redfield. She left Raccoon City and lived on her own day by day, planning to uncover the secrets that she heard of at the orphanage she and Chris stayed at. After getting evidence of a conspiracy, she comes back to town to warn everyone of the incident. Claire left a positive impact here, but every now and then, whether by script or acting, she seemed strangely cold. Her relationship towards Leon really should have had more to do with it, but she only really gets to show off otherwise until reuniting with her brother. Next is the aforementioned Chris Redfield, played by Robbie Amell, from Scooby-Doo The Mystery Begins, The Flash, and 2 episodes of How I Met Your Mother. Out of the 2 Redfields, Chris shows the more emotion, even being the emotional crux of the final fight. He probably gets the most fighting time as well. His relationship towards Jill and the other STARS members could have been written better, but were perfectly believable and entertaining. Speaking of Jill, she's played by Hannah John Carmen of Ant-Man and the Wasp fame, also dipping her toes into TV shows like The Killjoys and The Stranger. Actually, that might just be Killjoys. Much like Chris, her relationship and attitude towards the other characters were believable, but not A+. When comparing her to her video game counterpart, she may not be the master of unlocking, but when comparing her to her jaded counterpart in the latest remake, she comes across believable in both actions and demeanour of a less jaded Jill. And certainly better than Boobs, her character in the previous movies. Next is the villain of the movie. Kinda, sorta, not really, but might have tried to shoot a child. Wesker is played by Tom Hopper, or Sir Percival from Merlin, or man watching porn in Doctor Who.
Hello! Laptop, gimme. No. Oh, wait, it's fine. Hang on. Give it here. Blimey. Get a girlfriend, Jeff.
This version of Wesker is far less fake blonde and cheesy than the other movies and games, actually being somewhat of a three-dimensional character of sorts. A lot of his interactions are positive, like with Jill and Irons, but I feel that too much of his motivation is explained in monotonous exposition. Then our other Resident Evil 2 player character, Leon Kennedy, is played by Diversity Cast. Oh, sorry, I channeled Twitter there for a second. Leon is played by Ivan Jogia. Okay, I have no problem with the casting, but once again I have no idea how to pronounce that. Leon may not be a good representation of the Resident Evil 4 and onwards version of Leon, but to be fair, I felt more of a connection to him in this movie than many of the STARS members, and certainly more than the Leon from Resident Evil 2. The game this movie is partially based on. Not only does he get the out-of-depth character down, but considering how much of an arsehole everyone else is to him, even if the reasons and backstory feel half-baked, it opens us up to far more of an emotional connection to him than any other character. Also from Resident Evil 2 is Chief Irons, played by Donald Logue, who played Harvey Bullock in Gotham. I was really happy with Irons in this movie. He may have had a rotten attitude, but the comedy spawned from his character is great, and he works off the other characters like Leon pretty well. Far better than the two-dimensional possible rapist from the games. Crazy Scientist Birkin was played here by Neil McDowell, who had a long-running and recurring role in the Arrowverse's Damien Dark, and just recently featured on American Horror Story. Here, the character of William Birkin existed. Unlike the games where he was a complex monster attempting to balance his care of his family and his kill-all, infect-all rationale, here he is far more of a two-dimensional villain. Even if his villain designs were kinda cool, his on-and-off disregard or coldness towards his family created enough of a lack to make any connection to the audience disappear. Lisa Trevor is also here, played by Marina Mazeppa, who starred in another horror movie this year, Malignant. What a ride that was. Lisa is, well, for me, if it weren't for the name and physical costume, I would have had literally no idea if this character was connected to the games. She does well to establish a bond with Claire and has a decent fight scene, but beyond that, unlike anything else in this movie, it feels like a way to shoehorn in a game reference more than anything else. Also, Ada is there for 2 seconds in the credits. Now with our characters out of the way, let's do a run through of the story. We start with a nice flashback scene involving Chris and Claire's childhood at the orphanage, where Claire makes friends with Lisa, and Birkin and his strange hair are introduced as a creepish antagonist. If the exterior shot of the orphanage indicates anything, even if not always faithful to the game, the set and location work looked decent and seemed to have a lot of effort put into them. We get more references with a trucker character who comes back later to blow shit up, and we're introduced to the adult Claire leading us into the opening title. I love how the title screen pays homage to the original game's text. It looks great. Then, after an opening crawl, we're introduced to the rest of our characters in a diner. Rookie Leon, who is harassed for apparently shooting a previous partner, Jill Sandwich, and actually Happy Wesker, and I think the other is Aiken. I don't remember. We also get these strange countdown title cards to detonation time, as the crux of the motivation hinges on Umbrella covering up their zombie mess by essentially nuking the Raccoon City. Although for a city, the residents seem to like calling it a small shithole, but that's beside the point. Claire meets her brother, or, well, breaks into his house to tell him about the shady shit Umbrella is doing, with a weirdo on her videotape, who, mind you, has convincing points, but looks and sounds so loony, he forgets to back them up with any evidence. Chris tells her that he won't give her money and pisses off to work. Birkin shows rare affection for his daughter in the movie and comforts her after she sees a monster. He gets a call from someone who tells him of the bombing, leading him to packing them up and heading to save his research that will get caught in the blast. Claire is attacked by Chris's not-so-scary zombified neighbours, ruining the creepiness of the Itchy Tasty, and she leaves to catch up to her bro. Now at work, the Alpha team are told by Irons to head out and save the Bravo team lost at the mansion. Not before yelling at Leon for no reason. Wesker is given info from a mystery party, and the team leave for the mountains. Claire stares at Birkin in a scene I think was meant to be cool, but only leads to a flashback where he evils around. The trucker crashes outside the station, leaving Leon and Irons to deal with the incoming zombie threat. Irons guesses what's going down and hilariously leaves Leon in charge as he flees. Alpha Team searches the woods, finding death and eventually making it to the mansion. That felt honestly a little small, but the effort into making it look similar to the games is pretty commendable. They have the great idea to split into teams, in a horror movie, while Irons attempts to escape the city, only getting back to the station within an inch of his life as the Umbrella soldiers open fire on the civilians attempting to leave. Irons gets back to the RPD and is attacked by the Cerberus in a creepy scene, only to be saved by Claire and joined by Leon. Claire takes charge while Leon freaks out, and they decide that if they can get through to Alpha Team, they could escape via chopper. Chris and Aiken have a very neutral zombie fight scene, and we see a great recreation of the first zombie moment from the games. Aiken is torn apart, and Brad is torn from the chopper. Wesker not so subtly uses info from the Tablet of Evil to find a secret entrance, but an appearance by Zombie Brad, in his chopper, makes that a little harder as Jill and Wesker are forced to flee. Claire and Leon gear up, and Leon finds the conspiracy guy from earlier in the cells, who actually has a good excuse for the RPD officers to not get infected after each attack, like in the games, but he is quickly killed by a zombie, with Leon attempting to toughen up, but Claire takes the kill. Although Leon is not completely emasculated and gets a couple rounds off, Jill and Wesker are still walking, and with the secret entrance now open, he reveals he's been working for someone who wants him to get the virus his Umbrella was making. Wesker's motivation is like that of a boy at the start of a rom-com. He hates his small town life and wants to leave and go to the big city, which is a good refresh on the character, but I honestly prefer the half too serious and half smarmy Wesker from the games and shit movies. Jill is understandably annoyed and leaves Wesker to find Chris. They also get a good introduction to the zombie shit going on. Our trio in the station have a plan and escape out the loading bay in a tense scene that I'm pretty sure involves an extra from Doctor Who. Irons takes them to the orphanage, where Umbrella were, I guess, experimenting on the orphans, and not only do they find a creepy-looking Lisa, but fight a disturbing licker that makes short work of Irons. Recognizing her old friend, Lisa takes Claire to the orphanage's secret child experiment room, and we switch back to Chris, who has a stupid, ugly, and stupid fight scene. I think the idea is alright, but the execution makes me pity anyone with epilepsy who decided to see the film. Jill finds him and explains what happened, while Leon and Claire find secret files and documents about the human experiments, including a great reference to the Ashford twins. Wesker walks into the secret basement where Birkin is collecting his research in a pretty cold scene. Continuing from that scene, Wesker ends up shooting Birkin and his wife. Birkin takes the serum he had on hand, while Wesker goes after his daughter Sherry. About to shoot her, only stopped by a close-call bullet from Jill. Birkin transforms with okay visual effects and decent practical ones, having a showdown with Chris. Even if their father-son-like bond is established a little quick, the way it plays out is pretty engaging. Claire comes in to save the day, but Chris finishes him off. Their tender moment ruined by Leon getting them to the secret train that brought them here in the first place. Getting the train the fuck out of there before the city and mansion explodes. Now on the train, escaping the fallout, this very average-looking CGI monstrosity appears for the final fight, where thanks to Leon's RPG, I'm surprised no one died. And there was a fantastic shot of a cow for no reason that I really liked. The film ends with our surviving characters escaping out a tunnel, and a return of the great logo. And I guess there's an after-credit scene? So that's how the movie played out, but how well did it adapt to the story? Well, we should touch upon the elements it took, then left out and see if any major problems are caused, as narrative problems may occur, but even now I think I'm confident in saying that what it does take was pretty positive. It primarily takes from the first two games. The characters were touched on before, but from the first game we get the mansion and stars business, and the RPD and city plot comes directly from the second. But a fair few characters from those games did miss out appearances here. Notable members of stars such as Barry Burton,
you were almost a Jill sandwich,
and one of my faves, Rebecca Chambers. With the screen time of the mansion split between twice as many characters in this movie than the games, their absence is worked around well, especially with elements such as the tyrant at the endgame being melded with a boss from the second game to create this movie's climax and final boss. From the second game, a lot less characters were cut, only the notable Mr. X missing, but Birkin's role in this movie allows no necessity for these antagonists to be focused on here. The relationship between Sherry and Claire is also completely removed. Well, basically everything to do with Sherry was removed, although her arc's absence allows Irons to be more than just a shitty ass of an antagonist, and becomes an entertaining character. And I'm sure we could all agree that, even with these cuts, this movie is far more faithful than any of the others. The only large downside I can see is that by having elements from Games 1 and 2 take place simultaneously, it leaves no room for Game 3 to take place. That means that unless straying far from the source material, we won't see Brad's original death, or any of Carlos's team appear. Although that does mean the next movie might be based on Resident Evil 4, and that game was basically just an action movie in itself. A small part, but when adapting material it is important to take a quick step to mention the set design itself. For the most part, the set design was pretty good throughout this movie. Now, not everything can be accurate to the source material, such as Raccoon City not looking like a typical city. But the two main settings, like RPD and the mansion, are not only accurate, I mean, not 100%, but I'm sure budget needed the mansion to actually not be built as a mansion, but both look fantastic, even if rooms such as the RPD main hall are only used sparingly. Even the very simple areas such as Lisa's room and the underground of the orphanage are all well made, and even fitting the atmosphere of how they attempt to be portrayed. Usually I'd also press upon the music, but while writing, I have absolutely no recollection on whether there was any good or bad music here. Was there even music in this movie? I mean, I know there was, but you get the point. Overall, this was a decent movie with a great sense of character, while successfully, even if not perfectly, adapting the broad strokes of the original material. A great group of actors were brought to the table here, and the script, even if it had odd choices here or there, was competently built and sorted to be coherent and given its own identity. A good thing, because you would not want this lumped in with the previous movies. I would rate Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City, a 6.5 out of 10. Thank you everybody so much for watching this review of Resident Evil. Please like the video if you liked it, consider writing a comment down below, and remember to subscribe to the channel, and if you do, ring the notification bell so you're told every single time that I make an upload. Remember, I've made a Ko-fi, so if you have any spare money, I would be delighted if you put it towards my videos. Once again, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!
Toast. A little piece of toast. Because there's so much to choose from. There's brown bread, white bread, all sorts of wholemeal bread. It comes in funny packages with writing on the side.